Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming to this presentation. So before we start getting into the actual topic, let me introduce myself quickly. I started getting involved in game design professionally when I moved to Singapore about more than 7 years ago. And I started doing design and research on experimental games and serious games. Then I moved to different institutions, started also teaching game development topics, and then lately I've been working with this company, Kentaura, on their first game, a social game, which is still unannounced officially. But now we are in a closed beta, and hopefully in a few weeks we will get in open beta. And I'm going to show you some screenshots of this game now, actually, for the first time. So, besides this, I wrote a couple of books, one on game design and one more on the history of the early video games in the 80s and 90s. So, okay, what's this topic about? Well, to have a kind of analysis on fun, what makes games fun, and in particular social and casual games, well, we need to first define a kind of methodology that we want to follow to actually analyze games in a proper way, in a reliable and consistent way. So I'm going to use three main references for this that I will briefly introduce in this talk. So first of all, the MDA framework, then my own 611 framework, and then also Richard Bartos's players typologies in its early forms. And we'll see how all these can be combined together and used together so that we can have a clearer picture why a game can be fun or immersive and engaging and so on. And we do this through some kind of case studies from different successful casual and social games. Okay, so the first thing that we should really do if you want to analyze games in a kind of consistent and reliable way is to start looking at the game at different levels of abstractions. And this is actually what the MDA model does very well. So it breaks down a level into three different layers. So you have the mechanics, which are basically the game rules. So the core actions that players have to do in the game. So basically it's how to play the game. Then this is followed by the dynamics, which is actually the gameplay. So what happens, kind of interactions that we have in the gaming world once the player starts using the core mechanics, the core rules. And then we have the aesthetics, which tries to describe the emotional response that the player is feeling, the kind of emotional experience of the player throughout the game. So clearly, the aesthetic part is actually the most difficult to understand and master because it relates to something which is quite subjective. So how do players feel when they play? What the players really want to experience when they are playing our game, and also ultimately what triggers kind of a fun and engaging experience. So obviously this is a very tricky part, and the MDA has its own aesthetic model, the 8 kinds of fun, which you can see in the reference that I listed in the first slide. So it's very interesting how they categorize different types of fun according to different game genres. But anyway, when also I was teaching game design, I noticed that for students and also for junior game designers, it was not always so easy to try to relate the 8 kinds of fun of the original MDA framework into the actual game dynamics and mechanics. So I started thinking of an alternative model for analyzing the emotional experience of the players. And this model is then named 611 framework after it's kind of 6 basic emotions and 11 core instincts that seem to be more effective and more prominent in many different types of games. So once we also define the correspondences and relationships between these sets of emotions and instincts, then it becomes quite easy and straightforward to relate these to the game dynamics and ultimately to the mechanics. So what are these 6 emotions and 11 instincts? Well, first of all, we have kind of fear, which is a very common emotion in many kind of survival horror games, for example, and in many others. We have anger, which is a very good kind of a motivational tool and used in many games. And you also have pride, because of course all players are very happy when they can defeat a boss battle or score specific achievements and so on. Then, interestingly, we also have a sadness that well, we clearly don't really relate to fun, obviously, but it's something which can be used very effectively to make some very poignant kind of gaming experience. So well, I have here kind of screenshot from the cover of the old game Planetfall from the 80s. It was supposed to be the first game that made people cry towards the end of the game. And then, clearly, all games try to bring excitement to their players and joy for their kind of successes and results. So moving to instead the 11 core instincts that are relevant in games, where we have survival, which obviously we can relate to fear, and it's one of our strongest innate instincts. Then we have revenge. So this is a core component in many different games. Think also of Pac-Man, where we have to basically get chased by the ghosts for most of the game. Then finally we get to the power pellet and we can chase them back. That is one of the most satisfying moments of the whole game, exactly because it relies on our revenge instinct against the ghosts. And then also curiosity that pushes us to know and understand as much as possible of the virtual world that where we are spending our time in. Then we have self-identification. So we obviously are always keen to try to get into the shoes of the hero and save the world and get really into feeling like if we were the main character of the story and live the story. Then we have aggressiveness. Clearly we are kind of aggressive animals, so that's in almost infinite number of games that rely on this. And we are also very competitive. So we want to see who's the best on a specific game or on a specific challenge, and this we've seen the success of leaderboards, not just recently on online platform and so on, but just things of all the arcade games from Asteroids on Wars. Asteroids was the first game that had a leaderboard, and that was one of the reasons for its great success, that everyone could see who was the best players in the arcade and so on. Then we also have protection and care. So we also, with one of our best instincts, so we want to take care of a puppy or anything. So this can be used kind of a short term to drive also gameplay, like think of games like Nintendogs, or also as a kind, in the long term, as a kind of long-term aim. So let's say our girlfriend has been kidnapped and taken in a kind of weird mansion, and that's our main reason to face many dangers and rescue her. Then, besides this, we have also greed. Clearly, we also want to get rich and get amass as much wealth as possible, and also collecting. So for some reason we are very keen to try to get different items, arrange them in sets, and have a collection and so that we can display and show. So that's another thing that has always been very common in real life and also keeps getting exploited in video games. And lastly, we have communication. We are obviously social kind of animals, so we love to share our experiences and our ideas and our thoughts, and also color appreciation. So regardless of whether we are working on a Triple-A title where we want to have a kind of photorealistic graphics and environments, or a more casual titles, then a kind of colorful graphics and the proper use of colors artistically then makes the games much more appealing and the players much more keen to be involved in the game and experience the games fully. Okay, so the idea is that in games, like in real life, then emotions trigger instincts, and then instincts push the player to act, motivate the player to act in the game. And in this way, it actually becomes very straightforward to link the instincts to the game dynamics and the mechanics. So For example, if we succeed in triggering fear emotions in the players, this will then trigger the survival instinct, which then can push the player to do something in the game, whether escaping and avoiding danger through then the mechanics like hiding and running, or maybe to fight back right away, and then we have a different set of mechanics, which can be then kick or punch or cast a spell and so on, according to the game that we are designing. Or another example, say anger. If you are very angry against the bad guys in the game, this will help us to unleash our aggressiveness, and then we have the right motivation to start chasing and fighting the bad guys throughout the game. So again, different set of mechanics that we can allow the players to accomplish this task and this game dynamic. So let's try to start then with an example, and say one of the most successful casual games ever, so like Angry Birds by Rovio. And well, the game starts with a simple kind of cutscene, which is actually very important and very meaningful to engage the players. So we start to see in this cutscene that the pigs steal the eggs of the birds. And this is very important psychologically because it makes the players kind of empathize with the birds, so take their side, so identify in a way with the birds, and then also make the players quite angry of what the pigs have done, and then willing to take them, again, the bird sides and have revenge against the pigs. So this is then, revenge is actually the main instincts that drives the gameplay in this game. So the dynamics then is of destroying the different fortresses and constructions that the pigs have set up. And we will do this through a different set of mechanics which are also represented by each bird, which has a specific characteristics and can help us in achieving our aim. Anyway, besides this, there are also different components. So there is also a curiosity element, because when we start playing the game, we want to see how the story develops, what's the next level, the next challenge, and so on. And also, we can notice that the graphics is also very kind of nice and colorful, so to make the players more really interested and at ease with a simple but engaging gaming world. And clearly we have all the competition aspects of the leaderboards and then the collecting side. So we have kind of golden eggs and other items that we can try to look for in the different levels, so to keep engaging the players through different emotions and instincts and make the game highly replayable and interesting in the long run. Okay, so the last part of the analysis methodology that I'm proposing here is then also to consider the Dr. Bartol's original taxonomy on the player types. So while this was done originally for kind of online games, MUD type of games, it's in its first form it's quite general, and I think it can also be applied to different types of games. So let's see also for casual and social games how we can integrate these and what kind of instincts and emotion seems more relevant for them. So the original taxonomy divided players into 4 groups. We have the achievers, who are basically the people who want to get as many points as possible and rising in levels as much as possible. So they want to have bragging rights with their friends that they got to that level, got that specific item, and so on. So for these players, we can say that the core instincts that are at play for them are the collecting, also greed, and competition. They're very important for this group of players. Then we have the explorers, and this group of players want to know, really, to find out everything about the game, so to know everything that the game has to offer. So kind of identification to get really immersed in the game is very important, and then clearly curiosity. We want to bring them to be excited about exploring the game and find out everything about the game. Then we have the socializers. So these people are interested in the game also as a means to know more people and sharing their experiences, listen to other people's experiences, and so on. So clearly communication and also protection seems like a very good fit for this specific category of players. And then we have the killers. So these are the type of players who want to impose themselves on others. And really, they are just happy of causing distress to other players, and they want to show that they are the most powerful guys in the game. So for these players, clearly, aggressiveness is play, revenge, competition, and survival. They want a kind of a fight in the game. So let's then look back at Angry Birds and see what kind of instincts then, like how we can map these types of players into the game and see if this game is relevant also for these categories of players. Well, we can see that the main kind of core gameplay where we really need to get angry towards the pigs and then take revenge is something that clearly is liked as a good fit for the killers. So we can really try to destroy the fortresses and the castles of the pigs and so on. But the game is also structured in a way that also appeals different categories of players. So there is something for the explorers that really want to find out everything about the game, unlock all the levels, see every kind of screen that the game has to offer. And then clearly there's lots of room for the achievers, so all the different, taking all the stars, again unlocking all, finishing the game and getting to the top of the leaderboard and so on. So it's very good for these three types of players. Originally, instead, there's not much about the socializers, but now also the integrated social elements in the new Facebook version that has been launched recently. So let's instead move now our attention to some Facebook-based games. So I took now as a case study a Millionaire City by Digital Chocolate. And well, in this game, then, well, we have to take the role of a real estate CEO. So the game, from the beginning, from the tutorial, try really to immerse the player into the environment so they can really feel like, okay, I am the real estate CEO of this company and I have to develop this city. And then from here, they take the player through gameplay that tries to excite then a different set of emotional instincts. So we have curiosity, always curious, okay, what's going to happen next? Maybe I can unlock new buildings and get different types of contracts and these kind of things. There are new daily prizes that we can collect so that we are always interested in coming back to the game and so on. We can share our results with our friends and so on, and of course be very happy and proud of our achievements. And well, and interestingly, also this way of the communication is also going to trigger the competition in a way from other players, because when we start getting some kind of milestones and achievements in the game, then, and we post it on our Facebook wall, the message usually also contains something that for kind of address to our friends that I've been so successful, but you can maybe even try to beat me and be even better, so why don't you play also? So try to trigger the competitive instinct of the players. So here you can say that the main driving forces for playing the game are the curiosity to see how our city is expanding, and then also the greed that we can be more and more rich and get wealthier. And we do this from a different set of dynamics of building and upgrade stuff, also plan for our development, and so on. So interestingly, now this kind of high-level aesthetic analysis of the game, of Millionaire City, is also quite general, and it's a good fit for many other types of social games that we had on Facebook and other social networks. So we can see that, well, there is room here for enjoyment, definitely for the explorers. So you have to, kind of game of curiosity to see how the game develops, what the game really has to offer, all the types of buildings or items that we can use and grow and so on. Then there is a lot, clearly for the achievers, is all about getting new results, levels, badges, and these kind of things. And also you have different means to try to socialize with our fellow friends and players through the different, visiting their friends, helping them, and so on and so forth. But what about the killers? So there is not really much here to enjoy for the killers. We may think something maybe in the competition, but the competition here is very bland. You just try to get better results and so on, but there is not really a way for players to cause some sort of distress or obstaculate the other players. And it seems logical because we want to play with friends, not with enemies. But anyway, we see also a kind of evolution in social games. So if we check Empires and Allies by Zynga, we see that they clearly tried to also appeal to these kind of categories, to the killers. In fact, you have an options to really invade your friends and loot them for resources and so on. So, as I was saying earlier, this is in a way very good because it tries to bring new players to the game, but it may also be a bit risky because, as I was saying, well, we want to play with friends. We don't want to play with someone who just comes every day and takes our resources and makes our games more difficult. So it may be difficult to balance this type of dynamic, and clearly it must be offset also with some positives, and it is so also in Empires and Allies, logically. So even if we lose some units, we get some kind of bonuses, and it's usually relatively easy to retaliate against our friends and also invade them. So we have different ways also to keep them at bay and get also some good effects. Wow, okay, 5 minutes. Okay, so let me talk now briefly about instead the games that we have been developing so far at Kentaura. So this game is called Horse Master. It's a kind of attempt to mix kind of farming mechanics like in a Farmville, but then finalize it to more competitive action in the game. So we are in stables, and we are trying to rise our horses and then make them ready for actual competitions and horse racing competition. So we have different also mini games for the training that will make the gameplay more exciting. So this game is currently in, I was saying, in closed beta, but we should be able to have an open beta in a few weeks. So if you want to keep up to date, of course, keep in touch with me. So the idea of the game, anyway, is to actually be split in 2 main sections. One within the farm, the stables, which is a little more strategic, and it relies on really taking care of our horses in the game, so to really trigger a kind of protection instincts towards the foes. And then we also have kind of hopefully attractive and colorful graphics that will really take the players, make the players willing to explore the game environments and so on. And we have different things to collect and use. And also for the players to share their experiences, challenge each other, help each other in different ways, and so on. Then we have a second part, more kind of exciting, where we have really get into the action of the racing systems of the game. So here, clearly, competition is to be the main kind of aim of the game and actions, but we still have the idea of collecting then trophies and badges and these kind of things. So the 2 sections should ideally then get together and be able to involve all the 4 different categories of players. So we have a kind of track which should be more effective for the achievers, so all the kind of results and levels and so on. We have interesting mechanics for the socializers to help each other, and it's really try to be some kind of meaningful interactions between players. And we have, of course, the explorers, and also we try to involve the killers. So both in the competition, where you really want to train your horse your best and really try to defeat all of the players, but also in the original settings of the stables, some of the game dynamics that we are implementing will aim to somewhat create a kind of subtle competition. So everything that you can also do in your friend's farm has some kind of positives, but you can also have find out some way to maybe obstaculate your fellow trainers a little bit in some way. So we hope that this will also be able to excite the killers in both areas of the games. So time will tell if we are successful or not. So what I wanted then to emphasize in this talk is that I believe it's very important to have a kind of pragmatic approach to game analysis and design, so we can also express our ideas in a more coherent and consistent way. And well, across all different game genres, we can really rely to different, a small set of subset of instincts and emotions to really excite players for our games. So casual games in particular have been very strong so far on achievers and explorers. Then social network games obviously expanded on Socializers, and there is still a lot, I think, to be done to make the interactions between players actually more meaningful and interesting. And then, the killers are kind of traditional and for obvious reasons kind of been neglected so far, but there are ways that we can try to also make a game appealing for them. This means that it must be easy for the players to strike back, so that we don't really get harassed too much. And then also the negative effects should always be offset by some positives. So you can do something bad, but well, the player still gets some kind of positive and incentive to keep playing. Okay, so this concludes my presentation. Thank you very much for your attention. Maybe we have a couple of minutes for questions, otherwise you can also look for me afterwards, and I'm available for all your questions.